Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU, but he is not playing Tony Stark. He is playing Doctor Doom, the villain of the next Avengers movie. When Marvel announced this at Comic-Con, fans lost their minds. Some people cheered, some people booed, and everyone had the same question: why does Doctor Doom look like Tony Stark? Is he a variant? Is he adopted? Did Marvel just cast the same actor twice? Because they needed a big name. John Campea, a Hollywood insider who claims he read the Avengers Doomsday script, just answered that question. And his answer changes everything we thought we knew about this movie. Today I am breaking down what Campea revealed, why Doctor Doom might not be connected to Tony Stark at all, how this affects Secret Wars, what it means for the multiverse saga, whether Jean Grey is actually in the movie, and why this casting decision is either brilliant or a huge mistake. Let me know in the comments what you think before we get started. The Campea revelation. John Campea runs a popular movie news show where he takes questions from fans. He also claims he has read the full script for Avengers Doomsday. Now, anyone can say they read a script, but Campea has a track record of being right about Marvel leaks. So when someone asked him if the script explains why Doctor Doom looks like Tony Stark, people paid attention. His answer was simple: they do not explain it in Doomsday. That answer will come in Secret Wars. This statement sent shockwaves through the Marvel community because it means one of two things. Either Doctor Doom and Tony Stark are connected through the multiverse and Marvel is saving that reveal for Secret Wars, or they are not connected at all, and Robert Downey Jr. is just playing a completely different character who happens to look like the actor who played Iron Man. Both options are insane. Let me explain why. If Doom and Tony are variants, then Marvel is doing something they have never done before. They are casting the same actor to play two different versions of the same person across multiple films. This is not like Chris Evans playing Human Torch and Captain America. Those characters exist in separate universes and never interact. But Doom and Tony Stark would share a multiverse connection. That means characters in the movie would recognize the face. Steve Rogers and Thor both knew Tony Stark. If they see Doctor Doom without his mask, they would react. The movie would have to address it, but according to Campea, Doomsday does not address it. That creates a massive problem. If the heroes see Doom's face and do not react, that implies they do not recognize him. But if they do not recognize him, that means Doom is not a Tony Stark variant. He is just a guy who looks like Tony Stark. And if that is true, then Marvel cast Robert Downey Jr. for one reason: nostalgia. They wanted the emotional gut punch of seeing Iron Man's face on a villain. But here is the thing, that only works if Doom is actually connected to Tony. If he is not, then it is just a gimmick. It is the same as casting Chris Evans as Human Torch in Deadpool and Wolverine. Funny for 5 seconds, then you move on. But this is not a cameo. This is the main villain of 2 Avengers movies, the biggest antagonist since Thanos. You cannot build an entire saga around a joke. So which is it? Is Doom a Tony Stark variant or not? Let me tell you what I think: the multiverse problem. The multiverse saga has one core idea: different choices create different realities. We have seen this with Loki, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange. When you travel between universes, you meet variants of people you know. Sometimes they look the same, sometimes they look different. The 3 Spider-Men look completely different even though they are all Peter Parker. But Loki variants all look like Tom Hiddleston, except for the alligator and Richard E. Grant. The rules are inconsistent. Now let's apply that to Doctor Doom. If Doom is a Tony Stark variant, that means in one universe, Tony Stark became a hero. In another universe, he became a villain. That is a fascinating concept. It would mean Tony Stark's ego and intelligence could have gone a darker direction. Instead of building the Iron Man suit to escape terrorists, maybe he built it to conquer. Instead of sacrificing himself to save the universe, maybe he sacrificed others to rule it. That would make Doctor Doom a dark reflection of Tony Stark, a version of him that never learned humility, that never had Pepper Potts or the Avengers to keep him grounded. It would also explain why the Russos cast Robert Downey Jr. They are not just bringing back a beloved actor, they are showing what Tony Stark could have become if he made different choices. That is powerful storytelling. But there is a problem. If Doom is a Tony Stark variant, then he is not really Doctor Doom. He is evil Tony Stark wearing Doom's armor. And that pisses off a lot of fans. Doctor Doom is one of the greatest villains in Marvel history. He is not a variant. He is Victor Von Doom. a man born in Latveria, a genius who mastered science and magic, the rival of Reed Richards, the ruler of his own country. His entire identity is built on his tragedy, his ambition, and his pride. If you take that away and make him a version of Tony Stark, you are not doing Doctor Doom justice. You are doing Iron Man fan fiction. So that brings us back to the other option. What if Doom is not a Tony Stark variant? What if he is just Victor Von Doom and he happens to look like Robert Downey Jr.? That would preserve the character's comic book roots. He could still have the same backstory, the same rivalry with Reed Richards, the same tragic origin. The only difference is his face. And in an infinite multiverse, it is possible that two unrelated people could look identical. We saw that joke in Deadpool and Wolverine with Chris Evans. But here is why that does not work either. Deadpool and Wolverine is a comedy. It thrives on meta humor and fourth wall breaks. The audience is supposed to laugh at the fact that Chris Evans played two different Marvel characters. But Avengers Doomsday is not a comedy. It is the culmination of the multiverse saga. The stakes are supposed to be higher than ever. If Doctor Doom just happens to look like Tony Stark for no reason, that is not clever. That is lazy. It would feel like Marvel is trying to have it both ways. They want the emotional impact of bringing back Robert Downey Jr. without committing to the narrative implications. And that is frustrating. So what is the solution? How do you cast Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom without it feeling cheap? There is one theory that might answer that, the adoption theory. Some fans believe Doctor Doom was adopted. Here is how it would work. In the main MCU timeline, Tony Stark was born to Howard and Maria Stark. But in another timeline, Howard and Maria Stark adopted a boy named Victor Von Doom. They raised him as their son and named him Tony. So in that universe, Tony Stark is Doctor Doom. He has the same face, the same intelligence, but he grew up with a different name and a different destiny. This theory would allow Marvel to have it both ways. Doom could still have his tragic backstory. He could still be a genius who masters science and magic. He could still be the rival of Reed Richards, but he would also be connected to Tony Stark through adoption. That way, when Steve Rogers and Thor see his face, they would recognize him, but they would not understand why he calls himself Doom. This theory also explains why the Russos were so cryptic when they announced Robert Downey Jr. They said he is the only person who could play this role, not because he is the best actor for Doctor Doom, but because the role specifically requires someone who looks like Tony Stark. If Doom was adopted by the Starks, then casting Robert Downey Jr. is not just a nostalgic choice. It is a narrative necessity. But there is a problem with this theory too. If Doom was adopted by the Starks, then he is still not really Victor Von Doom. He is still a version of Tony Stark with a different name. And that brings us back to the same complaint. Fans want Doctor Doom, not Iron Man in a green cloak. So maybe the adoption theory is wrong. Maybe there is a simpler explanation. Maybe Marvel is just doing what they did with Chris Evans. They are casting the same actor in two different roles, because actors can play multiple characters. And if you are a good enough actor, the audience will forget they are watching the same person. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the best actors in Hollywood. He won an Oscar for playing a completely different character in Oppenheimer. He played a drug addict in Less Than Zero, a con artist in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, a method actor in blackface in Tropic Thunder. He has range. So maybe Marvel is betting that audiences will see Doctor Doom as a separate character even though he looks like Tony Stark. But that only works if Doom keeps his mask on. And that brings us to the next big question. When does Doom reveal his face? The mask mystery. In the comics, Doctor Doom never takes off his mask. He wears it because his face is scarred, but the scars are not as bad as he thinks. His real disfigurement is psychological. He cannot stand the idea of being imperfect, so he hides behind the mask. In the movies, this creates a storytelling problem. If Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom, audiences will want to see his face. But if they see his face too early, it ruins the mystery. So the solution is simple. Keep the mask on for the entire movie. Do not reveal his face until the very end. That way, the heroes do not know what he looks like. The audience does not know what he looks like. And when the mask finally comes off, it is a shocking twist. Steve Rogers and Thor would see his face and freeze. They would recognize him, but they would not understand how it is possible. That moment would be the cliffhanger leading into Secret Wars. And Secret Wars would explain the connection. This is the theory that makes the most sense. It explains why Doomsday does not address the Tony Stark connection. It is not because the connection does not exist. It is because the characters do not know about it yet. They spend the entire movie fighting a masked villain, and only at the end do they realize who he is. This would also also explain why John Campea said the answer will come in Secret Wars. Because Doomsday ends with the reveal, but Secret Wars is where we get the explanation. So if that is true, then the next question is, what is the explanation? How is Doctor Doom connected to Tony Stark? And why does he look like him? There are a few possibilities. Maybe Doom is a variant who was born in a universe where Tony Stark never existed. Maybe he is a version of Tony who survived the snap and became corrupted. Maybe he is a clone. Maybe he is a Skrull. Or maybe, just maybe, he is not connected to Tony Stark at all. Maybe the real twist is that the multiverse is collapsing and people from different universes are starting to merge. Maybe Doctor Doom and Tony Stark are two separate people who are being fused together by the incursions. That would explain why they look the same. And it would set up the ultimate conflict in Secret Wars. Two minds trapped in one body, a hero and a villain fighting for control. That would be insane, and it would justify casting Robert Downey Jr. But we will not know for sure until Secret Wars comes out. So for now, all we can do is speculate, and that brings us to the next big reveal. Jean Grey might be in this movie. The Jean Grey surprise. Chris Claremont is a legend. He wrote the X-Men for 17 years. He created some of the most iconic stories in Marvel history. The Dark Phoenix Saga, Days of Future Past, God Loves, Man Kills. If anyone knows what is happening with the X-Men in the MCU, it is him. So when he casually mentioned that Famke Janssen is returning as Jean Grey in Avengers Doomsday, people lost their minds. He said it during an interview like it was common knowledge. He said they are bringing back the original cast, including Famke Janssen. Now, it is possible he was mistaken. Chris Claremont is in his 70s. He might have confused one project for another. Or he might have assumed Famke Janssen would be in the movie because everyone else from the original X-Men is returning. But what if he is right? What if Famke Janssen really is in Avengers Doomsday? That would change everything. Because if Jean Grey is in the movie, that means the Phoenix is in the movie. And if the Phoenix is in the movie, that is a whole new level of power. The Phoenix is one of the most powerful entities in the Marvel Universe. It can destroy planets, it can rewrite reality, it can resurrect the dead. If Doctor Doom is trying to stop the multiverse from collapsing, he might need the Phoenix. Or maybe the Phoenix is part of the problem. Maybe the incursions are happening because the Phoenix is breaking down the barriers between universes. Or maybe Jean Grey is one of the heroes who teams up with the Avengers to stop Doom. Imagine this. The Avengers are losing. Doctor Doom is too powerful. They have tried everything, and nothing works. Then, in their darkest moment, Professor X reaches out to Jean. He tells her she has to unleash the Phoenix. Scott Summers begs her not to. He knows what happened last time, but she does it anyway. And for one brief moment, we see Famke Janssen as the Phoenix. Comic accurate. Big Bird flames. The full transformation. She confronts Doctor Doom, and just when it seems like she might win, Doom does something that neutralizes her. Maybe he absorbs her power. Maybe he traps her. Maybe he kills her. But whatever he does, it proves that he is more dangerous than anyone realized. That would be an incredible moment, and it would justify bringing back Famke Janssen. But here is the problem. Avengers Doomsday already has a lot going on. It has Doctor Doom. It has the Fantastic Four. It has the multiverse collapsing. It has incursions. It has variants. Adding the Phoenix on top of all that might be too much. Unless the Phoenix is not a major part of the story. Maybe she only appears for one scene. A brief cameo to show that the X-Men are part of this universe now. That would make more sense. It would be a way to include Famke Janssen without overloading the movie. But we will not know for sure until the movie comes out. So what do you think? Do you think Jean Grey will be in Avengers Doomsday? Do you think she should be? Let me know in the comments. And if you are enjoying this video, make sure you are subscribed, because we are about to get into the biggest question of all. Is Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom a good idea or a terrible mistake? The final verdict. Let's be honest, Marvel is in trouble. Phase 4 and Phase 5 have been messy. The movies are not connecting the way they used to. The TV shows feel disconnected, and audiences are getting tired of the multiverse. Marvel knows this, so they made a desperate move. They brought back Robert Downey Jr., not as Tony Stark, but as the villain. This is a gamble. If it works, it could save the MCU. If it fails, it could be the beginning of the end. So will it work? That depends on how they handle it. If Doctor Doom is just evil Tony Stark, then no, it will not work. Fans will be disappointed. Critics will call it lazy, and the movie will feel like a gimmick. But if Doctor Doom is his own character with his own backstory and his own motivations, then yes, it could work. Robert Downey Jr. is talented enough to make you forget he ever played Tony Stark. He proved that in Oppenheimer, he can disappear into a role. So if the script is good, he can pull it off. But the script has to be good. It has to justify why Doom looks like Tony Stark. It has to give him a compelling reason to be the villain. And it has to make sure he feels like a threat. Because if Doom is just another disposable villain who gets defeated in 2 hours, then what is the point? Thanos worked because he was built up over 10 years. He was a looming presence in every movie. By the time Infinity War came out, audiences were terrified of him. Doctor Doom needs that same buildup, but he is only getting 2 movies, Doomsday and Secret Wars. That is not a lot of time. So Marvel has to make every scene count. They have to make Doom feel unstoppable. They have to make him smarter than Reed Richards, more powerful than Doctor Strange, more ruthless than Thanos. And they have to do it all while explaining why he looks like Tony Stark. That is a tall order, but if anyone can do it, it is the Russo brothers. They directed Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. They know how to handle ensemble casts. They know how to build tension, and they know how to make emotional moments land. So I am cautiously optimistic. I think this could work, but it could also fall apart. And we will not know until May 2026. So what do you think? Is Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom a brilliant move or a huge mistake? Do you think Doom is a Tony Stark variant or a completely different character? And do you think Famke Janssen will actually show up as Jean Grey? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your theories. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe because we have a lot more Marvel content coming your way.